Hi everyone, I'm Claire Liu and I'm the CEO of Know Your Company. And today I am thrilled to have with me the one and only Katrina Markoff. And if any of you have ever heard or eaten Vosges chocolate, which I have in my kitchen all the time, my goodness, this is my favorite bar. Katrina is the founder and chocolatier of this amazing brand. She studied in Paris and built this company from the ground up. It's all about this ethos of being able to travel in many ways when you eat chocolate. And so you can find her chocolate in obviously, high-end boutiques all across the world. But I think the thing that's really unique about what you do too is you also make it very accessible. So you actually have locations at O'Hare International Airport.
Yes.
You sell or you distribute yours also through Whole Foods.
Yeah.
And then something that I actually learned today that I had no idea about is she recently launched a new brand of chocolate called Wild Ophelia, and all the proceeds go towards an accelerator that they have for young women entrepreneurs in high school that are in food businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
high school and college.
High school and college, yeah. So absolutely amazing. I mean, I know you've also been like on the Food Network and in all these publications. Katrina is the real deal. She's based here in Chicago, and I'm lucky to know her and admire you a lot.
Thank you so much, Claire.
Oh my gosh,
awesome.
Of course.
To do this.
Yeah. So I've got this one question to ask you, Katrina, about leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, what's one thing you wish you would have learned earlier as a leader?
I think the importance of staying really close to your leadership team, like really aligned and really close. As your business grows from entrepreneurial startup to much bigger, wider team.
Yes.
And I'm pulled so much as the founder and the face of the brand into, being PR focused and speaking focused and whatnot. And I would say, it took me a lot out of the company, and I am naturally an introvert.
Oh, really?
So
I would have never guessed that. Me too.
So I've learned through bumps and hills and valleys that you can't lose that connection with your team, because so often they're working for you for your vision.
Yes.
And that connectivity to you is what is part of the reason they're there.
Absolutely.
So as you get drawn more and more out, you have to remember, how do you connect again? Mm-hmm. And that is in ways of lunch or getting feedback or social outings with your team. I think that's important not to lose sight of that. So
absolutely. No.
It's not. It seems maybe that's obvious, but actually
it's hard.
It's hard.
It might be obvious to your point, but it's hard in practice.
Yeah.
I think everyone who's watching this is probably nodding their heads going, oh yeah, as a CEO or as a leader, being out, doing the speaking, being out promoting, etc., you forget to sort of reconnect with the team. And well, for you though, so how big is your leadership team? How many people do you have? How big is actually Vosges in terms of their company right now?
So we probably have around 100 employees, and it flexes up depending on the seasonality, because we make a lot of chocolate during the holidays, and so it goes up. But in regards to sort of the core group of leaders in the organization, maybe there's 8 to 10, but those are very important 8 to 10 people that need to feel like they're important to you.
Yes.
And I had kids too, which is a whole other level of distraction from being a founder, single, and then got married and then had kids. All that stuff is taking that part of you. So I think the more you can set up those connection points with your team, and also, of course, hire the right people who are very entrepreneurial in nature, as I like to say, or, take a lot of initiative, more the type that maybe you need to pull the reins, but less that you have to push up the hill, and that need a lot of feedback from you to make those decisions. So, figuring out how you change your team over the time, of your life with the business and its initiation stages to sort of to the more mature space. But, Yeah,
absolutely. No, that makes so much sense. I have like a million questions I want to ask you.
Yeah.
The first part is around, so you're talking about connection points, right? And building connection points.
Yeah.
And you were saying, it could be as simple as lunch. Is there anything you do particularly right now with the Vosges leadership team that might be considered kind of counterintuitive about connection points? Or what do you try to do as a leader to make sure people are, you're sort of staying in contact with folks?
One of the things I've been doing lately is like really having these sort of level playing field conversations. Like, please give me feedback. What are your ideas? How can we make this better? You tell me, give me feedback. Please give me feedback. What do I need to be doing better? Yes. Because I think the more down to earth and approachable they think you are, the better it can gel. I don't like top down organizations.
Yes.
And people that are on the floor making the chocolates to people that are running those teams, they see so much that I don't see as much anymore. I mean, I worked in every area before, which is super helpful to know how everything works, but then you get a little bit distant. So you need to get their feedback and how can they feel comfortable giving you that information.
Yeah.
Sometimes, having these titles makes people feel like they're so much far further away from you than really they are. So just really approaching it on a human level, like, how are we doing this together? Let's figure this out. And I think that empowers people when they know that they have a voice too.
Yes.
So especially with people that are new, and also with all the new hires now.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm like spending time with them. Like, just even 15 minutes, just like the first or second week they start, like sharing my vision, getting to know who they are, what are their interests, and really trying to connect so there feels like there's a trust.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think one sort of benefit that you probably have in building that trust is, you do run a chocolate company, right? How many of us run a chocolate company in the sense of the vision that everyone is gathering around and excited about is pretty aligned. Do you ever find any challenges, though, in the sense that because it's food, right?
Yeah.
Because it's chocolate, which is sort of so like pleasurable and just wonderful. I mean, chocolate's like one of my biggest sort of like loves in life, right? Do you find any tension around the fact that, this, we are running a chocolate company, but at the same time, how do we sort of make sure we everyone is on the same page? And I don't know. I'm curious about that.
I mean, when you first start, there's chocolate everywhere and it's really fun, but it's definitely a business too. So it's like, it's really fun, but it's like, how are we really focusing on the goals for each channel? Because we have so many channels within the business that it's fairly complicated in that way, because we manufacture in-house. We do sell to other retailers like the Whole Foods of the world and Kroger's, and then we have our own retail boutiques, and then we have our own e-commerce, and we have our own business development, own hospitality, and events team. Now we're opening up our chocolate temple to the public, and so there's a lot of complexity, which makes for a really beautiful, deep brand with a lot of story, but also, complexity.
I mean, it's almost like 7 different businesses that you just
really
described.
7 different little, businesses.
Right.
So
absolutely. Well, so one of the things that you also mentioned too in sort of managing that complexity is, you were saying, and emphasizing the importance of who you hire. Right?
Yeah.
And I loved what you said about finding people who you have to pull the reins back on instead of push up the hill. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Like, when did you realize that was important? Like, did something happen or?
I mean, I would say when I first started, I remember thinking well, we couldn't really afford to hire people that were too expensive. So we would hire.
I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah.
All of us watching this. Yeah.
So you're a baby brand, and there wasn't this huge foodie movement when I started, and now, it's pretty sexy to be in food businesses. But, so in the beginning, it was just really working side by side with them and showing them and then having them do it, as opposed to necessarily, hiring expertise that I was going to learn from and that, that was going to take off and just go.
Yes.
So I think, as we got bigger and I couldn't be in all the areas, it seemed clear to me that it was more and more important that people were driving it, that were taking the reins and doing it. And, I'm not the best at hiring. I'd say it's not my skill set. So recently, a woman who has just been I guess, like an inadvertent mentor / angel that just decided to kind of lean in and help me. Like, she literally helped me hire the last 3 or 4 people. And she's really good at it. So one of the things...
Yeah, what does she do that you don't do? Or what do you think
she just has an innate, I don't know, ability of how to judge people and ask questions and know who's good and not. And in many cases, I probably wouldn't have hired the people she selected, and they've been rock stars. So it's very clear to me that it's not my forte to hire people. It's not, and so that's okay. You have to know, probably almost more important is to know what you're not good at. You know, than what you're good at. I mean, you kind of know what you're good at.
Absolutely. No, I love that.
Yeah, and you can't be good at everything. So if you know someone who's quite good at doing, you know, something you have a deficit in, you know, ask them to help. You know, however, I mean, she didn't, I mean, in this case, this woman is like so generous. She's just like, just throw me a chocolate party. Don't worry, I'll help you out. I'm like, oh, are you kidding? So, you know, angels show up all the time, and she's definitely one of them.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think what you said about knowing what you're not good at is almost more important than knowing what you are good at. I think that's such an important piece of wisdom. And also, hard to do, right? I mean, talk to me about, like, do you sort of have to sort of swallow your pride when you do that? Or, like, how do you keep that in check? Because I think for a lot of leaders, we know what we're good at.
Yeah.
I don't know if we always know what we're not good at.
Well, and the thing is, you always have to have a strong face, right? For your board, for investors, for the press, whatever. It's like it's very atypical to feel safe around saying what you're not good at.
Yeah, but like the fact you said, I'm not good at hiring, and you're a CEO, and you're, you know,
right.
You're founder. No. I just mean, like, that's refreshing.
Yeah,
that's super refreshing.
Yeah, and it's real, and, like, you know, I mean, at a certain point when your company gets to a certain level too, it's like you've got to really know that clearly.
Yes.
Because you know, in my case, I'm like good at getting it from 0 to, like, you know, 30-ish million, but like to get from 30 to 100 is a whole different game. And in fact, what I find now is that I'm really going back. I'm setting myself up to go back to my roots, which is my sweet spot, which is, you know, really creating the vision, the story, the product, being the face, like those kinds of things that no one really else can do, you know, and building a team around my innovation and stuff like that. So then it creates kind of even a bigger and broader group that can do what I do too. But I think, you know, like when you get to these different levels, you know, how do you reassess?
Yes.
Because in the beginning, you have to be good at kind of everything.
Right.
But then at some point you have to say, really, I'm best at this, and next level I need, you know, these types of people to fill in my gaps.
Absolutely. And I think there's something really interesting in the beginning where you have to be good at everything, but not necessarily great, right?
Right.
And then when you get to a certain level, then you have to be actually great and world class in a few specific areas. And it's very difficult to be great and world class in everything. And so that's when you sort of need to find those people and admit to yourself, okay, I'm strong in this. I'm strong, you know, I'm not. I'm curious for you, like, how do you sort of keep that check? Like, do you have a person you talk to sort of be like, hey, you know, can you keep me grounded about what I'm not good at? Or, you know, is it your leadership team that sort of keeps you in check? Is it something personally that you do and just sort of ask yourself questions? Is it, I don't know, an executive coach, or is it a peer group? Or
I mean, I've had all of it. I mean, I've had coaches, I've had peer groups, I've had my husband give me a lot of feedback. Of course. And, you know, frankly, I'm fairly self-critical, so I have a pretty good sense of, like, I'm pretty hard. I'm pretty hard on myself. So, but where I have a ton of fire and a ton of confidence is kind of where I know that's my strength, because it just naturally comes up, and I can naturally be very strong about my opinions, and I know that's, you know, where there's passion, there's usually, like, magnetism, and there's usually something right about that. So I just kind of, and I'm super intuitive, I mean, and I kind of have been like that this whole time with this brand. And, you know, and I think when I've veered off from being intuitive is when I've made mistakes.
Interesting.
You know, whether it's all these people that seem to be much smarter than me in the XYZ and referring to data and whatnot, and, like, and, you know, it's good to a point, but at the end of the day, intuition has to be the lead.
Yes.
And And you have to be confident in your commitment to that. Because in the end, it's like that's the thing that makes us very different from AI and very different from, the computers of the world. And it's something that is a sense that I think humans have that we must continue to honor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for encouraging us to listen to ourselves, to trust that intuition. And I think a lot of reason why people even watch videos like this and like the heartbeat is because they think, oh, someone else has the right answer. Oh, there's some advice out there that's good. And it's not the case.
It's inside.
It's inside. It's inside. One of my favorite sort of quotes, I don't know who said this, but it's just something I always repeat to myself, is that everything you think you need, you already have.
Exactly.
And it's all inside. So.
And trust the universe.
Exactly.
Totally.
Well, Katrina, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with all of us. I know we're all walking away just reminding ourselves to think about, maybe the things we're not good at, but also at the same time to listen to ourselves a little bit more.
Absolutely.
So, thanks so much again. And for those of you who haven't eaten any Vosges yet today, maybe now is a good time to go get some. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yep.